Hello, everyone. I am Tanya Cunningham with Tanya Homes Group, and welcome once again to my Realtor Hat series. Well, just for a moment, imagine what it must be like for a child to not be able to express themselves fully. Sometimes they might get frustrated by hitting, or they're just simply angry because they can't say what they want or what they need. Well, today we have the absolute pleasure of hearing from Donya Braddock, and she's a speech language pathologist. And what she does is she helps children so that they can express themselves. And they come from a place of feeling frustrated and feeling angry and feeling bitter to a place of being empowered. And today we're not only going to be talking about the children, but also their parents, how their parents can help them so that they can feel happy and joyful when they're at school or anywhere in the world, where they become really great communicators instead of feeling angry about what's going on inside, because now they have the ability to express themselves. So let's sit back, let's listen to what Donya has to share, because she's an expert at this and she's very passionate about what she does. So let's talk to Donya. Hi, Donya. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, Tanya. How are you?
I'm great. Always good to see you.
You too. You too.
So I really want to I've found that there's so many people out there who have children who don't fall into the regular steps of learning, or they have
development.
Yeah. And some of them really don't know what to do or how to reach out or how to get help. So I would love for you to explain to us what a speech language pathologist is and how you help the kids out there and families.
Great. Well, we focus on speech and language. So there's definitely two parts. Okay. So speech is basically the sounds that we hear. Sometimes they're distorted. We hear it in our kids and they can't pronounce cookie properly. So that's when you have a speech disorder or some type of effect there. Then we also have language, and there's three parts of language. There's receptive language, the language that we hear, following directions, the expressive language, the language that we speak, our statements, and then there's pragmatic language, the language that our social language, eye contact. So a speech therapist covers all of those aspects, and we basically work from the neck up. So if we're in the hospital setting, which my company isn't, but if we're in the hospital setting, we're focusing on swallowing. After a patient has surgery, we focus on we're the ones who are going to place the diet. The doctor will say, hey, they just had surgery. Please see if they're able to swallow any foods. If not, tell me what diet to place them on. In our setting, we're kids from birth to 18, and we're working on a lot of deficits with speech and language. Especially in our company, we focus a lot on autism. That's our number one population because we're located within a behavior therapy center that focuses on autism. So our field is very broad because we could also go to cognitive level with older patients who have strokes and memory loss, and we start to work on those things. So it's a broad field that I'm proud to say I've jumped around a bit.
Yeah.
I found my niche now, but it's such a broad field and it's just so helpful in so many ways.
Wow, I can imagine how what you do can really help families. I mean, I didn't even think about that. You know, like when somebody has a stroke, for example, and they have to relearn how to do so many things. And there are so many things that I hear about where people have to relearn how to speak and even walk and all of that stuff. And you actually help with that. And then, of course, on the other end, I have heard so much recently that the autism in our country has increased. Like, I don't know, the percentage is like incredible from how it was like a few years ago to now. Am I right?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. It's increased, tremendously. So it is like, they just still don't know the cause. They just don't know what's going on. But these are some of the brightest kids I've ever met in my entire life. I'm blown away by them, though. So it's such an interesting fact that they could pick up on certain aspects of speech and language. And then they can't, but they're brilliant in so many other ways. Like maybe they know everything about a computer. I mean, can tell you everything about it. I have a couple of kids that are nonverbal. I focus a lot on nonverbal. We use a lot of AAC devices sometimes. And I also do something called prompt therapy, which is tactile movements for the face. So that helps to like kind of trigger talking. Well, a lot of our kiddos that are nonverbal read already.
Oh, it's crazy.
Wow. Insane. It's beautiful. It's so amazing. So I'm very intrigued by them. And yes, the percentage of kids with autism has gone up tremendously.
I love how you say intrigued, because I'm intrigued too. I'm always talking to people, and I know a lot of people in different businesses, and I have to do a shout out to my friend named Pierre, because he has a company he calls himself Paperless Pierre, and he hires young adults with autism, and he says that they are the most productive that he's ever had in his company. He has many young adults with autism. Yeah. And that's the thing that I want to talk to you about, because you have this thing where they can read, but they can't speak, or whatever it is. How is it that a parent out there can really get knowledge and education from speaking with you about how they can guide their child? Because I can imagine it being a little isolating for some parents, and them being scared because they have to wonder about what's going to happen to their child even after they're gone. So how do you help them?
Exactly, Tanya. It's a very emotional process. It's a very emotional process. I was a teacher for 15 years before I switched over to speech therapy. So ultimately, when I talk to my parents, we know that as parents, we want our children to be successful. And it starts with obviously communication, but also school,
Yeah.
So their fear is leveled on top of, I know my child's just 2 right now, but still school's coming up soon. I need this, I need them to be functional, everyday functional communication to function in society. So I help my parents. We do a lot of parent training within our company.
Good.
A lot of parent training, also daily home notes on what we covered in therapy so that we could have carryover. And in the field of speech language pathology, carryover is basically being able to generalize. If you're doing something in my office setting, I want you to carry it home. I want you to carry it over to school. I don't want you to just be able to say complete sentences in front of me or within this setting. So we teach the parents how to elicit language, how to pull language out of their kids. Every day should be a narrative within the household. Oh, Johnny, we're putting on our shirt. Okay, we're taking a bath now. This is how we brush our teeth. A lot of our households are very quiet. A lot of our households don't do a lot of that talking back and forth narrative. So it's important that we give parents tools to help them when it comes to communication and academics in the case of my company, because we focus a lot on communication and academics.
I think it's interesting that you say that our households are so quiet, and I think they've become quiet because of the technology.
Oh my goodness. Screen time is such a major problem. Even in my household, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, as parents, it's the easy route, right?
It is.
You have so much to do. Like they're quiet for the hour they're on there or whatever they're on there for. But what is happening is that screen time is overpowering, and teachers and people cannot keep up with the ever-changing dynamics of a screen. The kids are bored. Swipe. They can't swipe us when we're talking. So the boredom kicks in. They're off task, so it is definitely a concern. But then we don't want to pull away from their generation. Like this is what they need to know, how to download, upload, so this is, and they're more brilliant at it than we are, so
my daughter teaches me everything.
Exactly. So, we have to find a good balance. And I talk to a lot of my parents about that too. You could tell over the weekend when a child has had a little too much screen time. Especially with kids with autism, they're scripting, what they call scripting a lot. So they'll be playing back maybe what they watched on the Mickey Mouse show. And you're talking to them and they're playing what Mickey played. But it's because, I can't say it's only because of that, but the screen time doesn't help,
Yeah, I think it's really great what you do, because I can imagine, I see it all the time where it really helps a parent sometimes get a break when the child is with the screen time. And at the same time, it could be too much screen time. So that balance is important. So you're teaching parents how to have that balance. And then I'm thinking, you add on top of it a child who has autism, and it's already difficult and they don't have all of the answers and they can't figure it out. I'm sure it's tremendously frustrating for them. So I'm sure that what you're doing is helping them understand how to navigate all of that so that they can really empower their child.
Right, right. And even for kids without autism, we have our parents that know their kids are struggling, even giving basic sentences. If there's certain developmental milestones that kids make, and some are delayed, some are disordered, where it's really being impacted maybe by something else. So as a speech language pathologist, we really focus on extending utterances. We call it the MLU, which is the mean length utterance. It's basically trying to get us to extend a child's utterance. So right now, a lot of my parents will come in and say, hey, my child is 3 and still just saying cookie and gesturing. So our goal is to get that child to extend their utterance and say, mommy, I'm hungry. I want a cookie, please. To functionally communicate and not just walk around with 1 to 2 word phrases. So we need to build their vocabulary. We need to let them understand opposites, hot, cold. So those little things that we come in. And we do a lot of play-based therapy for our younger kids because, we don't want to just sit at a table. They need to understand functionally how to play with toys functionally. If you have a telephone, are they banging it? Or are they acting like they're talking on it? Those type of things. So all of that comes into play with speech and language.
Well, I think that the one thing that I really am curious about based on what you're saying here is, because I don't want people to think that it's just children with autism or when it comes to the children, right? Or of course the other extreme when somebody's in an accident and they have to relearn how to speak. But
right.
I want to know, I'm curious. I have no idea what you're going to say to this, but I'm really curious. Do you find that sometimes when some parents have children that aren't developing the way society says they should be developed, do you find that they're embarrassed or don't know what to do, or they're nervous and then they just pretend like there's nothing there? Or do you find that you have more of the parents reaching out? What are you seeing happening there? Is there this stigma?
Well, you know what, Tanya? I see a little bit of both, right?
Okay.
But the ones that are actually coming to me obviously know and are proactive and want to do it. Now, when they're oftentimes referred by maybe a teacher or by the doctor, that's when we get a little bit of that pushback sometimes, but letting parents know that if we could push pride away and take pride out of it and just look for, and this is hard to say because, I have typically developing kids. So it's really easy for me to sit on this side and say, oh, take pride out. We want the best for our kids. I feel, how was school today, kids? Did you get bullied? I'm nervous every day. So I could only imagine if I have a child that can't advocate for themselves.
Right.
And then they go to school and I can't get out of them, hey, what happened? Did anybody talk to you bad? How was the teacher? And they can't give me that feedback. I would have those same feelings and fears as those other parents. So I try to work my hardest, especially with those candidates that come to me, because, I get where they're coming from. I could only empathize, but I get where they're coming from, and I tread lightly because it is it's a touchy subject, but I see both, Tanya. I see. Yeah.
And I can see how empathy and compassion are going to be definitely necessary in a situation like that, because they're just afraid. They're parents who are afraid, right? And they're not sure what to do. So what message would you tell a parent who's watching right now who might be in a situation like that? And just what would you tell them so they know that there's help out there and it's a really good idea to seek help from you?
Early intervention is the key. Early
Okay.
intervention is the key. That's the phrase that goes around our field a lot. If you think, and sometimes it's really hard because, especially if this is your first child, you really
Mm-hmm.
don't have another child to compare your child to. So you're thinking, I don't know, should they be talking? I mean, I know what he's saying, that we get a lot
Yeah.
of that. But if you have just an inkling, get them checked out. Why not get a screening done, get a formal evaluation done by a speech therapist, ask a developmental pediatrician. I love when parents go to developmental pediatricians, because those pediatricians are specifically looking for things like speech and language. But
Mm-hmm.
if you ever have any concerns, or just, hey, should they be, always ask, be proactive. It can't hurt. It can't hurt to get that evaluation. Sometimes our company, we take United Healthcare and
Mm.
TRICARE. So sometimes insurance covers it, but other times you do have to pay out of pocket. But I definitely think it's worth it, just to know, does my child have a problem? Is there a slight delay? Because if there's a delay, we could start to close those gaps, and that's what's important. And
Mm.
that's why early intervention is the key. We don't want to wait till kindergarten, and now they're actually in grade school, and now the pressure's on them to do all this reading, when we could have tried to at least nip things in the bud too. And I also want to kind of give a background too with behavior.
Yeah.
I'm affiliated with a behavior therapy company as well too, called Evolving Minds Together, and we collaborate, because a lot of times when you see problems with communication, a behavior is going to occur. If I can't talk to you and tell you I want this
Makes
cookie, I'm probably
sense.
going to hit you. I'm probably going to
Makes
hit you.
sense.
I'm probably going to throw things. I'm going to tantrum. So if you're seeing that your child is doing these things, that it goes hand in hand. They probably have communication and behavior issues, and we want to nip them in the bud together. A lot of
Wow.
times, here in our field, speech therapy does not get along with behavior, because we kind of cross goals. I love it. Let's cross goals all day long. This is where we're going to get a good effect. So the company that I'm affiliated with, Evolving Minds Together, we collaborate as a multidisciplinary team. So we come in and we say, okay, look at little Johnny here. What he's not on my end, he's not speaking. I need to get him up. On their end, he's hitting. We need to decrease those behaviors. Miss B, they call me Miss B. Miss B, if you could help us to help Johnny say, I want to color now instead of hitting, then we could eliminate the hitting behavior and get my goal, increase his MLU, his mean length utterance. So we
Wow.
kind of work together. So I'm always a big proponent of behavior therapy if need be.
I love that, because I think that a lot of kids get labeled and the kids don't even want to play with them, and then it gets so frustrating, and then it turns into such,
Yeah,
it can be, if you do that and you're collaborating in that way, what a different life that child, that parent, that family will have because of that, because it is going to change. Communication is key. So if you're frustrated and you don't know how to communicate, I can see how slapping somebody or so, and then you think that kid's a bad kid, and that's not the
it's
case.
not the case. They just have something to say and they don't know how to say it. And that
Wow.
is exactly what it is. And kids are getting kicked out of school and doing all these things. And it's not fair, because there is something else impacting it. And we need to also work on behavior at the same time, and parent training, because parent training is so important. If we're working on behavior and the Evolving Mind Center, it's so important that whatever they're doing at the center needs to carry over, that carryover word again at home, because we cannot get it in one setting and then the child will lose it and we start back over. It needs to be consistent across all settings for the child.
I love that, because you're teaching the parents, you're helping the kids become so much more than that they could possibly be inside of the therapy that you're doing.
Right.
And you're really empowering both the parents and the children and whoever else is involved, the family. And I
Exactly.
know that in schools, because I know we could have another conversation about it, and we will, I'm sure. But I
Right.
know that in the schools, sometimes they're not sure of what to do, and therefore they're labeling these children, and then the parents are getting upset and frustrated, and they don't know what to do. If a parent knew you were there, they could reach out to you, tell you what's happening in school, and then it could just really help make that situation totally change. And of course, the schools need to be more aware of how to handle this too, right?
Right. I mean, and some schools are better than most, than others, and some teachers, it goes down
Yeah.
to teachers sometimes too. I do have to say, when I was a teacher for 15 years, I taught third through fifth grade. I didn't know about so many of the developmental delays, autism, syndromes. I was not aware of all of these things that could be impacting my kids within my classroom. You're kind of thrown into it as a teacher. When I went for my master's for speech therapy, it kind of broke down and gave word meaning to everything. Like, oh my goodness, I had a child with that. And now I get it. It kind of put the puzzle together. So coming together and putting it all together is really important. And in the school setting, I also want to throw out that our company, we also sit in on what we call IEP meetings, individualized education plans. This is basically education plan set for a child that may be struggling in school, and most of our kiddos obviously usually are on an IEP. So I give my input within those meetings on the communication section. Again, I was a teacher and a speech therapist within the school, so I'm familiar with IEP. So that's also a very scary part for parents, because it's a big meeting, a bunch of people, like, oh my gosh, what are they saying? My child needs to be pulled out, pushed in. So we're there to help you at least with the communication section.
Wow, that's great. Well, I really appreciate this conversation, and as we wrap up, Donya, if I'm out there looking at this conversation that we're having, I'm wondering, can I talk to her if I'm far away? Do I have to see her in person? Do you do virtual? Can you tell me a little bit about how people can connect with you, and if some of the therapy is even virtual?
Yes, so we are mainly based at our office in West Pembroke Pines, Miramar area. And that's one location. And we also are expanding to Southwest Florida right now. But we also do daycares, some home settings, and telehealth. We have a few clients in Guyana right now too. And of course, anybody local where they come to the center, but we definitely have the ability to be online.
That's great. That's great, because somebody might be watching right now and they're not in even Florida and they need help. So that's great for everyone to know. Donya, this has been amazing. I love this conversation.
Me too, Tanya.
Yeah, I meet so many people all the time, and I see so many things happening, and I have a 16-year-old, and I'm constantly concerned about her, and she's going off to college next year. And I can't imagine what it's like for a parent to be in this situation where they're not sure of what to do, and they're concerned about their child and what's going to happen for their future. And to know that you have this ability to help their children become better communicators, to empower those parents, I think that's fantastic. I'm glad. I can feel your passion through the screen, like I'm sure everybody can feel it, and I just love that, because you love what you do.
I do. I love it. I love it.
I can tell. I love it. I can tell, and that's what we need. So thank you.
I love it.
Tell us how you can be reached. What's the best way?
Sure. You could go to communicatingabovebarriers.com, communicatingabovebarriers.com. That's our website there. All information is on there. Or 954-884-0088 is our business line. You could contact us there, or info@cab.llc.care. If you want to send an email and just ask some questions, we're here to help you.
Donya, thank you. We'll be putting this also on the screen, so plus what you just said, so they'll know how to reach you. And of course, they can reach out to me if there's any confusion there. Yes. But I have a feeling that people watching will definitely, who need the help for themselves or their children, I know they'll be reaching out. And thank you for educating us on, what's possible, and letting us know that you're available with your company to do this. And I'm glad that you're expanding, and it's so needed in our world. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Such a pleasure.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. Take care.
Thanks.
Communication is so important with everything that we do in life. So I am so happy and excited that Donya and her company are doing such great work to help our children, because they are our children. This is our world. So please share this video with whoever you know may need this help, even if you don't, because I'm sure you know someone who might be going through some frustrations or just don't know which way to turn with helping their child. So Donya can be reached at communicatingabovebarriers.com. That's communicatingabovebarriers.com, or phone 954-884-0088, or email info@cab.llc.care. And remember, if you are buying or selling a home or have a friend or family member who is, tell them to reach out to Tanya, because we wear the hat to bring you the facts.